Your ritual!
What's happening, folks? How you doing? Welcome to Ritual Madness Podcast. Wow, my lips got all huge right there for a second. I was stumbling over my own lips. Welcome. Thanks for tuning in. It is Friday. Man, what a week. Hope you guys had a good week. Don't forget to check out Anti-Broadcasting Custom Screen Printing, antibroadcasting@gmail.com or 612-836-9488. Give them a call if you're looking to get some screen printing done. I know they do a bunch of different stuff. They do some stuff for my work, so I've seen them do zip-up hoodies, regular hoodies, all kinds of T-shirts, high-vis stuff for job sites and all of that other shit. They do a ton of stuff. I bet if you picked up a rock and threw it outside, you'd probably hit one of the bands that they've worked with in this town, honestly. They're a fantastic bunch of guys. Anti-Broadcasting Incorporated, Custom Screen Printing, and antibroadcasting@gmail.com, 612-836-9488. Give them a shout. Tell them your ideas, man. Get some quotes. Say what's happening. I want to say what's up to little Mama Shank out there. Craig Rosensbeard always checking in. And Beatrice, I'm not sure if you've ever joined us before, but welcome. I appreciate you joining us. Lowbrow Saints Tattoo Collective is a tattoo shop that my homeboy Jason owns, and he's been on the podcast with the Donkey Show a couple times. Go say what's up to Jason. A great group of tattoo artists down there at Lowbrow Saints Tattoo Collective. 612-353-4755. lowbrowsaints@gmail.com. Give them a call if you've got a couple ideas. You want to get a sleeve, you want to get a face tattoo. Don't do that unless you're in it for the long haul. It's kind of one of those things. Appreciate you joining us. Again, that's Lowbrow Saints Tattoo Collective, 612-353-4755 or lowbrowsaints@gmail. Shoot them a call. Say what's happening. Tell them I sent you. Maybe they'll charge you a little bit more. I don't know. I've used that a couple times. How you guys doing? You guys doing all right? You guys unmute your things?
I'm unmuted.
All right, good. Why don't you do me a favor and say your name and what you do in the band?
All right. I'm Taylor Haagensen, and I play guitar for Coffin Rites.
Awesome. Welcome, dude. I appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure.
How about you, sir? With the sexy ass beard.
Tom, and yeah, I play the beard. I also have been known to play drums.
Yes, you're a badass drummer. Let me see here. Who says what's up? I'm wearing one of those shirts right now. Which shirt? The Coffin Rites shirt? I need a pair of cherries on my butt. Yeah, you do. As my granny wants. Whoa. Hey, what's going on? Adam D is checking in. I saw these cats not that long ago. They killed it. Yes, they do kill it. I was fortunate enough to see you guys do your set at Crypticon. And it was perfect because I did a show here and I knew there was just enough time. I grabbed my camera and off I went, grabbed a couple shots of you guys. Now, Taylor, before you joined the band, Will and Casey were the guys that were like the super photogenic dudes right up front all the time. You know what I mean? Always like in the right pose at all times. When I shot you guys at Crypticon, you were kind of taking over the duties there, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's some good shots, man. And Dave Rabin, he's always catching that good stuff. Now, you guys dropped some videos before you dropped this CD itself, correct?
Like the kind of like the documentary videos.
Well, the live stuff on 1459, right?
Yeah. No, yep, yeah, we did that. Yeah, I had a brain fart there.
It's all right.
Yeah, we did Cryogenic Awakening, and we did Killing Time and Space, and those were a lot of fun to do. And that was actually, honestly, my first performance, or quote unquote live performance with the band, and I was really nervous in those videos, to be honest.
Yeah.
After that, I totally lightened up and got some more confidence and just started headbanging. If you watch the video, I'm a freaking statue, not doing anything.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
Did you loosen up as you went, or what?
Oh yeah. Yep. Once I got more confidence with it, and and just hanging out with the band and, feeling it. I don't know, it was good. Those were fun videos, and I think we did some excellent performances there.
Oh yeah, man, they sounded really great. They looked really great too. Now with those videos, did you guys have to do multiple takes, or was it something that you guys were able to blaze through and just knock right out, or what?
It was, we could do multiple if we wanted to, but it wasn't something that we really wanted to do, because we really wanted to just get the live experience.
Sure.
So just because it was COVID time, we couldn't do anything. So, this is the closest thing we can do to live. We didn't want it to be perfect. We wanted it to be us. This is what it's like,
Yeah, for sure.
live. And, we can show that we're pretty tight live too.
Yeah. You guys smashed it at Crypticon for sure. Now you being one of the newer member in the band, I know I've had Tom on the show before. So like when you were coming up, what were your parents listening to? What were your brothers and sisters listening to? What was going on in the house as a kid, musically?
As a kid, there was a lot of country music, personally, and honestly, I like country music personally. I think there's some good stuff, and I think there's some really cringy stuff.
Yeah.
Other than that, there was a lot of like there was some Motley Crue here and there, stuff like that, and that is the stuff that I really was fond of. And no one really told me what it was. I just kind of had to figure it out just by listening to the radio when I was a kid. And then one day I actually found out the names of them, because I actually listened to the radio and it said, "Oh, that was Motley Crue on 92.5, whatever." I'm like, "Oh, that's the name." And then after that, my grandma actually took me to Walmart to buy. So I wanted to go buy a record, and I wanted a Motley Crue record, but they didn't have any there, which is weird, now that I look back. But I bought a Lynyrd Skynyrd CD, and then I bought an AC/DC CD, and then I actually bought Metallica's Death Magnetic when it was new.
Okay.
And I did not even hear Metallica before, and that's the album that I loved the most. And then ever since then, that was like my welcoming to, I guess, the rock and metal scene.
Sure.
For music interest, at least.
That's awesome. Now, where did you go beyond that? Like, where were you pushing towards? Once you heard Metallica and Motley Crue and things like that.
Oh, like
heavier.
What I want to do.
Yeah, like heavier. What were some of the heavier bands?
So after that, I listened to Warbringer. I wasn't really too into it, really. I was like forcing myself to do it. And one day, me and my buddies, Greenwood and Blaine, it was my first band I was ever in, because they were into death metal. And I've never heard anything like it before, really. I heard Five Finger Death Punch, and I thought that was death metal. And, but right, I know. I was like 12. Once that happened, after I heard some real stuff, honestly, I didn't really like it. But after I kept hanging with them and started playing it and going to record stores and really like feeling the culture, I just like, all right, I'm just gonna I'll buy a Death CD.
Which one did you buy?
Individual Thought Patterns.
All right.
And the reason I bought that one is because I heard Andy LaRocque from King Diamond was on there, and I still am a huge King Diamond fan. And once I heard that, like, I fell in love instantly.
Nice.
And then after that, I listened to everything. Everything death metal wise. Then I got into black metal after that. It took me a little bit to understand that when I was younger. And then this one day it clicked. And, it's just, especially the death metal, man, I think it's just, it's just wizardry on, guitar, drums, songwriting in general. It's great. It's insane. And yeah, kind of a weird upbringing maybe. I don't know, but that was kind of it.
No, that's cool, man. Now, so what were your folks thinking about that as far as the heavier stuff as you're moving towards that? Now, if you've got country in the house and the folks are listening to that stuff, and you start pulling in them death metal CDs, they're like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I told my mom I wanted a Deicide shirt for Christmas, and she's like, "What?" You know, I'm like, yeah, they're a good band or whatever. She's like, I'm not buying you that for Christmas or whatever. And then ever since then, she was just like, are you angry and stuff like that? It was kind of funny. Like, no, this is good. I remember, so my first band was Defiled Christ. And I remember telling them the band name. And they're just like, no, that can't be your band name or whatever when I was younger. And so we ended up changing the band name, sort of. Like, we changed it for a day, but then we just kept it the way it was and just told our parents that it was called that. But we advertised herself as Defiled Christ. And it wasn't just my mom, it was Blaine's mom, and Greenwood's parents didn't care. They were cool. But no, yeah, so that's kind of what happened. It was a shock factor. They were kind of worried, just like if I was angry or depressed, you know, all the stereotypical shit.
Sure. Are you on drugs?
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, Tom, so you haven't been on the podcast in quite some time, dude. How about a refresher on what you were listening to as a kid in your house or your brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I got a brother that's 10 years older than me. So I kind of, half brother. And so I would kind of get his hand-me-downs. And it was the 80s, so it was a lot of like AC/DC. There was some like Beastie Boys. I remember at one point my mom found an Iron Maiden cassette in his room, and it was the Number of the Beast album, and she freaked out. She called the local radio station, which I grew up in Vermont, so the local radio station was about as far from Iron Maiden as possible. So she called. I remember her calling and being like, "What is this? Should I be worried?" And they were like, "Yes, you should be worried." And so there was that. And then, I had some cousins that are maybe about 10, 15 years older than me that started getting into like Metallica, stuff like that. Cousins and like the Black Album made a big influence on me. That, I was 6 years old when that came out. So I was probably a little late to the game on that one, but by the time I was about 10 or so, I can distinctly remember hearing like the Black Album all the way through and being like, yes, loud drums as loud as you can go all the time.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like my dad's vinyl collection included stuff like Black Sabbath and Aerosmith and a lot of good stuff. Fleetwood Mac, the classics.
Yeah, for sure.
Some Led Zeppelin, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's fucking amazing. Now, how soon did you get to start playing drums? Were drums your first instrument?
Yes. I picked it up in, I guess, our school band program started in like fourth grade. And I remember it being either, I was split between, I either wanted to play the trombone because you could do the cool, that thing, yeah, or the drums because drums are just cool. And luckily, drums turned out to be the decision. And there was no looking back since then, I don't know.
I don't know.
With just the snare drum, and then
Tom, I don't know. I think you probably still would have been in Coffin Rites with the trombone. It's just my guess, but just really heavily swinging a beard and sliding that thing real fast. You know what I'm saying? would have been good stuff, man.
Fair enough. We need a little more trombone in the death metal scene, frankly.
I agree with you, man. Wouldn't that be great to have some sort of like death fusion, jazz fusion type of crazy horns going on? I think it would be fantastic.
I mean, I just saw Rivers of Nile a couple weeks ago, and they've got some saxophone parts.
No shit.
Around there, which is pretty sweet. So, yeah, I think there's room for trombone.
Hell yeah. Why not, man? Why not? Let me see here. Aaron Lannick says, what's happening, boys? Let me see here. Adam D says, Coffin Rites as a ska band, bro. Let's go. That's fantastic. Now, how about you, Taylor? Was guitar your main instrument right away?
It was, yeah. My dad actually played guitar. And he was actually, well, I know I said country music was in the house most of the time, but he was an old rocker in the 80s. He had a band called the Noise Boys and stuff, and they did like a lot of like 80s stuff or like some earlier style thrash or whatever. And so he knew about the world of metal and stuff, and he wanted me to play guitar, and I knew he played guitar. And he wanted me so bad to do it, where I was just like, no, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to, it's like, you're forcing me. I don't want to.
Yeah.
And so, but it was my first instrument. So one day it clicked with me after actually I bought that Leonard Skinner record with my grandma. And, I heard a song on there. I forgot what it was, but dude, they're cool on guitar, right? And,
3 of them. They had 3 fucking guitar players at the time.
Yeah, holy shit, that's insane. And just one day I was listening to the record on my radio, and I was like, I do want to play guitar, but I was so embarrassed to finally tell my dad that I wanted to do it, because I kept telling him no, no, that's it. And so I told my mom that I wanted to play guitar, and she told my dad, but she didn't tell him that I told her. And so we went and picked out an acoustic guitar, and then I started getting lessons from this guy named Kim, and he was a classical guitar player, and so that's where it all started, right there.
Nice, man.
About 11.
Now check this out, dude. I know your dad was probably he was all bummed out that you didn't want to play guitar and shit. And then when you told your mom, and your mom was like, hey, I got to tell you something. So he is your kid. He wants to fucking play guitar. You know what I'm saying? Your dad was probably like, yes, fuck yeah. And he's ready to rock. You know what I mean?
All right. Just finally I knew it.
Yeah.
And stuff, believe.
I know this because as soon as my daughter's, it sounds really silly because I'll throw little things at her. You know what I mean? And either it sticks or it doesn't, and sometimes she finds things that are kind of heavy on her own, you know what I mean? And so just either it'll be like a car trip somewhere. She'll go, oh, Dad, you might like this one. And she'll play something and it'll totally catch me off guard. Motley Crue was one of them. Nirvana was one of them. This band Falling in Reverse. I don't know if you've ever heard of that band. They're kind of they're poppy, but they're still, they have some heavy shit into them, she played that in the car, and we're talking, it went from, Justin Bieber to One Direction, you know what I mean? This shit. So it was and I get into all kinds of music. I love R&B. I love rap. I love all of that stuff. So it wasn't horrible, but when you take your daughter to a One Direction concert and all you hear is shrieks and barely any of the music, you know what I'm saying? You being a metalhead or someone who does heavier music, I always tried to give her little nuggets here and there, here, try this, try this, try that.
That's natural.
Yeah. But it was when my wife would say that same thing, she's your daughter, what do you mean? And she's like, oh, you're gonna like this one, you know what I mean? With Nirvana, I thought it was kind of funny, and because she kind of found it on her own, and it was just the way I found it was Smells Like Teen Spirit, you know what I mean? And I saw that on MTV as a kid, and it was it changed everything because I was into hair bands and everything at that particular time, and then they were just I liked punk rock. I did like Dead Kennedys and the Misfits and things and Sex Pistols and shit like that. But it was they just kind of pulled different pieces of that, of heavy and punk and things into their stuff. And like I told her for, after she's, my wife was like, oh, she's listening to Nirvana. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. I just bought her a Machine Gun Kelly fucking poster for the wall and like a little Peep and some shit like that. You know what I mean? It was like, she's not listening to that shit, And then we got in the car and she played it. And it was like, I was on my phone, and oh shit, you weren't kidding. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I get
Did you
that.
say anything or just kind of let it flow?
I let it flow, and then I was like, you really need to hear this whole album. And then it was, she does this with me where I'll suggest something to her. Funny is Earth, Wind, and Fire, right? I'm a big Earth, Wind, and Fire fan, and I'm listening to Earth, Wind, and Fire, and she's like, oh, what is this, And then, a year later, she's like, oh, this song was in Shrek, or this song was in some like kid movie, you know what I'm saying? And it was like Sly and the Family Stone too, dance to the music and shit was in Shrek at the end of it. And it was like, I'm rocking out because I'm like, hell yeah, this is the shit my mom used to listen to, you know what I mean? And then it goes out of my head and she'll pop it up in the car and I'm just like, where did you hear this? You know what I mean? Like she was listening to Earth, Wind, and Fire and Sly and the Family Stone and like all this old funky shit. And I was like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? But it was like that with Nirvana. Like I was trying to push her to do these things and she's like, no, I don't want to hear it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll figure it out on my own. And then she was playing video games one day and she said she just put it on in the background and listened to the whole Nevermind album and she was hooked. So
That's
now
awesome.
those Lil Peep posters over here and Nirvana's like above her bed and like,
Nice.
Kurt over here. And it's pretty cool to see that shit, man.
They're taking over the space now.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So how are you guys feeling now with you joining this band? How did it come to be that you hooked up with these cats, Taylor?
Honestly, so how it really went down was Matt Parkins from Volsugen Saga.
Yep.
He sent me. We're good friends, and he sent me a message on Facebook in Messenger saying like, hey, I saw the Coffin Rites ad, and shortly after, like maybe later that day, I just got off of work and Matt texted me like, hey, Coffin Rites is looking for a new guitar player. I would really recommend trying out. And I texted him like, yeah, dude, like, let me sleep on it. I just got off work or whatever. He's just like, then he comes to me, he's like, I already sent a message to Will. He's expecting to hear from you in about a half hour. And then I'm like, oh, okay. So I texted Will, and then I got a message back from him, and then we started, talking a little bit, and I got the tabs, and that was about it, and got the date for the setup, and I was really nervous. I've looked up to these guys, since I'm in the younger band Agony Reigns for a while. And we used to look up to them all the time. And, they set up a big example for us. That's like the band that we kind of want to drive for. They have the attitude, they have the stage presence, the songs. It's awesome. And so when this came up, I was nervous and excited. And here, one second, my dog's chewing on something.
No, it's all right. No worries. Hey, Tom, so how were you feeling, when you heard, so obviously you've seen him play before.
Yep.
Now when you guys finally got together, what was your first reaction to him gelling with your type of stuff? Did he know a lot of the material right away?
I mean, it started kind of slow. I think he maybe learned 2 or 3 songs as sort of like an audition. Then we kind of on the new album, Killing Time and Space. He's got a big solo in that. And that was part of the tryout, if you will. Was we basically sent him that track, sent him that chunk of the song, and was like, what can you do over this, and he sent us back pretty close to what's on the record. I think he's probably polished it, he polished it before the final product, but it wasn't a terribly difficult decision to to add him to the band after hearing that. And yeah, I mean, we had seen him, we had played with him in Agony Reigns at least once, maybe a couple of times. I think at least a couple of times. But at least we played with him at the Amsterdam bar. And they played, we maybe played second that show, and I think they might have played right after us. And I came out of Mosh retirement for that one because they were just killing it. You know, like I don't ever mosh, and I was like, holy crap, these guys are slaying.
Yeah.
So found myself doing a little circle pit action.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so we all knew that he was fully capable. Just getting in the same room and making sure that we could, you know, hang out, smell each other's farts, and you know, not be pissed off, and just make sure we all gelled together. But after that, it was like, yeah, it was an obvious decision.
You know, that's really the essence of being in a band together, is being able to handle each other's flatulence.
We spend a lot of time in a windowless practice space or a van, you know, like a lot of time in close quarters, and we all eat garbage a lot and drink a lot of beer, and there's some farting. It's just real life.
That's how it goes, man. We'll shout out to Matt Parkins for that one, man. That's very cool that he pushed you in that direction too. And I've actually kind of when you guys played with DRI and was it Pursuit of Cash played with you guys?
Oh, yep.
Yeah, I actually had a hand in doing that, getting you guys on that bill, because I had seen you guys. I can't remember who you opened for, but it was at the Amsterdam, and you guys being young cats, man. What's that?
I think it was Jungle Rot.
Oh yeah, that very very well could have been.
Maybe I don't remember, but one of those.
I just you know, like you said, Tom, seeing those young cats go at it, you know, that was the inspiration when I was a kid, man, is looking up to those local bands around you, you know, your peers, the people that, you know, you admire, and then they see you play, and then they pull you into that, you know, you all connect as a community, man. And I really fucking felt that when I was coming up. So when I saw Agony Reigns play, you know, the first time, I was like, damn, these young dudes are killing it. You know what I mean? And all very talented dudes, man. Every one of you guys were super talented. And, yeah, that's, you know, I mean, fuck, what can you say, man? That's good on you. And to have, I like I was saying before, you know, as far as the look of being a photographer and, like, you know, catching these guys play, you know, the front guys are always the ones that you get the most. And I try to get Tom as much as I can. I know I got a couple really solid shots of Tom the last time at Crypticon. And I thought I was thinking to myself, and I wrote on my website saying that each one of you guys are professional players and professional you know, showmen on stage, and you know, those guys that know how to, like, have that metal look and where to be and how to, like, you know, I caught you, Tom, a couple times. You're like smashing the cymbals and you had your arms up, you know, but it looks so, it looks like like you're finishing a race, you know what I mean? When you take a shot of it, because you're like, ah, you know, like you're just crossing the finish line. So it's, but it seemed, you know, each one of you guys have that good showmanship, and it shows through. And I can imagine, man, you know, if you're looking up to these guys and having the opportunity to play with the caliber of players that everyone is in Coffin Rites, you know, that's a huge up. You know what I mean? That's just one more awesome, you know, piece of music that you get involved in. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, very thankful, and, you know, having a lot of fun with it.
Now, how about the writing process for this Human Erase? Now, how long were you guys in the process, Tom, of writing this album? What were you before Taylor joined? Were you guys working on that material?
Yeah, I mean, we had probably most of the album recorded before we actually tried Taylor out.
Oh.
we, it's like 2019, we were starting to develop the songs, and then 2020 hit and everything shut down. And so we sort of we stopped practicing, I think everybody kind of did for at least a few months.
Right.
So everything kind of went on pause for a little while. And then our previous guitar player, Eric, probably around, I want to say maybe June, July of 2020, kind of just announced to us that he was going to move to San Francisco, the Bay Area, for work. And at that point it was like, whoa, like we had basically no deadline until that. And then it was like, oh, we gotta get in the studio like now,
right,
as soon as possible, to get, because at least probably 50% of the record is stuff that he had written, and a huge chunk of like the really like cool stuff was like stuff that he had influenced and written himself. So it was like, we want to make sure we track this stuff with him before he leaves. So then it was like, kind of a rush all of a sudden when we went from like 0 to 100. So by September we were pretty heavily into tracking. I think he left maybe in September. So we were trying to finish things up by mid to end of September. And then around that same time, we were trying out Taylor. And so it sort of like coincided to a certain extent. There was some, we had some room on the record to include Taylor. And so we obviously wanted to do that where applicable. And it made sense to try, as a transition. We got some of Eric on the record. We got some of Taylor on the record. And I think it worked out really good. Taylor had an opportunity to add. There's an instrumental song on the album that's all Taylor, and then a handful of solos and stuff that he just added his dynamic to that. And yeah, it worked out really well in that regards. And I honestly, I'm stoked to start getting into some of Taylor's material, because that was also part of when we tried him out. We were like, show us some of the stuff you've been writing, and it's great. So like, I think that's going to add a whole new element to our next record and anything that we do from here on out, because he's a hell of a songwriter, and it's it's a different vibe than Eric, so it'll be a little bit of a change, but I think it's going to be awesome, and I'm stoked for it.
Now, Taylor, when you heard this material, and having, like Tom said, a lot of this stuff being influenced by a guitar player that was slowly, moving on to different, things or whatever. But how was it when you heard this material? Were you stoked? Did you want to put your touch on and spin on this type of stuff right away, or were you just kind of taking it in and learning it?
Oh yeah. So, well, I mean, when I first heard it, I mean, I was already stoked before, any of the mixing or, any of that. It was just the raw stuff. And I'm like, dude, this already sounds great. Don't change anything.
Yeah.
And, so I was already really excited when I heard that. The first song that I heard off the new record, before it was mixed and all that for the trio, was Buried in Blood. And I was just astonished. It, in a way, it kind of intimidated me too. Just because I knew I would be filling, in the shoes of Eric, and Eric, it was a huge part, of Coffin Rites. And, I mean, he is on the record too. Right. And I know he's a dear friend to all of us too, of course. And, when I first heard the songs, yeah, I loved it. I wanted to dive right in. That's the honest truth. I was hoping that there would be room for me to dive in,
right,
or be a part of it, and there was, and they gave that to me. feel great about it, and just really honored, to have some room on there too.
Right.
For myself, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, so how long, with I mean, it's got to be, like you said, you're looking up to these guys and you get involved with them, and to be a part of this writing process, and kind of, like you said, having the green light to put your own flavor on things, and add your stuff to this to this project. It's got to be just a fantastic feeling.
Oh yeah, insane. I remember, doing that, like that long solo that Tom was talking about, and for like the trial, just like, hey, what do you got? And just came up with that, sort of fast, and then after I got the green light, hey, you're good. Like, let's record something like this. I really spiced it up, and put some sprinkles on top, and just really wanted to do a really good impression on them, and really just use my heart and soul for the songs, and I think I achieved that. I'm really proud of what I've put on there.
Oh yeah, man, that's fantastic. It's always great. Let me see here. We got a question from Adam D. Adam says, Mr. Taylor, how did you overcome your intimidation? What was your thought process to get over that hill? Sorry.
Over that, honestly, I didn't really do any of that. It was more so just hanging out with, Tom, Drew, Will, and Casey. We went over to Tom's house, had a barbecue, and, some beers, whatever, just hanging out at practice space, and, one thing I did was just try to just let go, just totally be myself, don't be afraid. And they were so welcoming, that is the thing. It was almost impossible not to be myself around them, just because it was that comfortable.
Yeah.
And, that was awesome. Tom comes in like, with like a funny joke or whatever, almost every practice. And that just sets the mood, and everyone's just laughing and having a good time. And that was very welcoming to me, and it gave me comfort just to, overcome that. Like, hey, I am a part of this band.
Oh yeah, man.
I really feel like that now. It's awesome. Like I feel like I've been in this band forever.
Hell yeah, that's great when you feel welcomed like that, and comfortable, man. It kind of opens that creative process so much. Now, we played. Let me see here. I want to make sure that I get this right, because I'm kind of an old burnout. Heart of Darkness. Now, is this something that Eric had hands in writing, or did you have more hands in writing this, Taylor, than?
I'm not sure if Eric was on there, to be honest.
That's a Casey song.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Our bass player wrote that one. Will arranged it, but Casey, our bass player, actually wrote that one. And that is, I think, the most input songwriting wise that he's had so far.
Yeah.
And so I think we were all initially like, all right, well, let's see what he's got. And then he gave us that, and we were like, oh. And he was like, I don't know if it's really like a Coffin Rites song. It's like, yeah, it might not be right for this. And we were all just like, nope, give me that. Like, let me blast beat over it. It's fine. It's that works.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was cool.
That's gotta be a fantastic feeling there, man. To have a discovery like that, like you know what I mean, like, dude, why are you holding out on me here, man? Come on, give me some more of that shit,
Oh yeah, absolutely. People have had a really positive feedback on that song in particular, and they all are like, yo, who wrote that song? It's like, Casey did.
Yeah.
Write more songs, Casey.
Yeah.
Come on.
I mean, that's kind of how it goes, man. When you wake the beast in someone, you know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of times guitar players are, you know what I mean? There might be one dominant guitar player that brings a lot of ideas to a project, and you know what I mean? The other guitar player will follow them for a little while, and then, they kind of they get that link to where they know what the other person's going to play, and then all of a sudden that other guitar player will come alive, halfway through writing an album, or the second album or something like that, and it's like you hear some of that and gelling with the original ideas of the guitar player, and now they're comfortable, and even being a bass player and having those type of ideas to come back and go, okay, here, man, like, here's my ideas, and you're like, what the fuck, man? Where you were stashing that shit? Bring more of that on, and that's got to be a killer feeling, man, to have such talented dudes in the band. You know what I'm saying? Now this is how do you guys feel like with the release? How do you feel people are taking it? Oh, I wanted to ask. Now this album was actually released on FTW and U2, right? Fuck the World and U2. That's Dan's record label, correct?
Yep.
How did you guys end up getting together with Dan on this project?
We shopped around a little bit for record labels. We were looking for something that, fit our same kind of mindset. And he's done mostly punk hardcore records in the past, and I think that's something that we wanted. There's so much of particularly the Twin Cities death metal scene that is just very I don't want to sound like an asshole, but it's very like everybody's working on the same shit all at the same time. It's a lot of bands that recycle members and a lot of people that are all kind of working together, and it's like a very tight-knit group, which is good, but it was like we really want to try and break out of that little bubble. And there's an awesome punk rock scene here, there's an awesome hardcore scene here, there's a lot of kids that are into various forms of extreme metal that I think that we can also apply ourselves to. And so Dan coming along with like a little bit more of a punk rock kind of vibe definitely appealed to us. And just after meeting with him and getting his vibe, he's the way he runs that operation. He's not looking to make a bunch of money off of it. He's just looking to, help the bands out and to keep the scene moving. And it's been great working with him so far. So I think it was sort of it was an easy fit for us,
Yeah, Dan's a sweetheart of a guy, man, a hardworking dude, right. Fantastic tattoo artist as well. And I feel you with that, with kind of breaking out of the mold a little bit. I know that your vocalist kind of runs in that punk circle as well, and you know what I mean. Like there's a lot of I wouldn't say clickiness, but like certain bands play with certain bands. I know for many years, like St. Paul had its own little scene too. You know what I mean? Like St. Paul bands would stay in St. Paul, and if they came to Minneapolis, they wouldn't. Their fans wouldn't come to Minneapolis, and it was vice versa.
Isn't that crazy? They're like 15 minutes apart.
Yeah.
I grew up in Vermont, where it was like I had to drive 2 to 3 hours to see anything. So like the concept of people not wanting to drive across town is mind-blowing to me, but it still happens. Even I guess now we're in a different time. Hopefully now, after people have had to go without music for a while, that kind of stuff will start breaking down, and people, particularly now where we've lost a handful of venues, like venues are hard to come by now. So I would, go out to shows. Doesn't matter where they are. It doesn't matter if you have to get in the car and drive 20 minutes.
It does.
I just played. I filled in with Begraveman up in Duluth last weekend, and there were some guys from the cities that drove up to Duluth, and that is the way it should be. Or no, I'm sorry, not Duluth, Fargo.
Right.
But yeah, you know, like it's a 4-hour drive, and there were some dudes from the cities that drove all the way up there to see some bands that they could see in the cities if they, you know, waited long enough.
Yeah.
But why wait? You know, like this you know, if the last year taught us anything, everything could be shut down tomorrow. Everything could get ripped out from underneath us. So take advantage of live music. Get out, go wherever you have to. Don't adhere to this cliquey, weird division, or, you know, don't choose sides or anything like that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of crazy, you know, because there were a lot of bands that just did a lot of those house shows too, you know what I mean, and good bands too, you know, and they didn't like intermingle. There, you know, there's a bunch of bands. I mean, I've seen Deterioration play in Sioux Falls, and you know, I had them on the podcast last week, and you know, I feel like a complete idiot because they've been doing the same shit for 18 years. And I just heard of them a few months ago. You know what I mean? And like people around me, you know, Jesse from Incinerate and, you know, Rob Carlson, they're like, what, dude? You just heard about these guys now? And I'm like, the top of my head blew off, you know? This is like a really fun band, and they're just, you know, grinding it out. And I love the hell out of it. And, you know, like going and seeing one of their shows at Rostamos. You know, they had King Goro play with them, which is one of those bands that plays a lot of house shows, you know what I mean? Basement shows. And I've seen them play out now with different bands, and I love to fucking see it. And I don't know if people are, like you said, starting to be open more to book with other bands, but man, for God's sakes, I think before everything closed up, you know what I mean? It was like every weekend was, you know, the same 3 bands at a different venue, you know what I mean? And that's really harsh to say and harsh to like see all the time. And I think a lot of those, you know, I was at a show last night and we were talking about back in the day when, you know, people were lined up around the block to see live music, you know what I'm saying? And then now everybody, and which is, it's a good thing too, because you know, people would get smashed. They'd close the bar down and people would then get into trouble, or they'd be, you know, car wrecks or whatever. But it seems like, you know, 11 o'clock comes around and everybody's dipping out the door to get back towards their house to catch last call. You know what I'm saying? Instead of like staying for all the bands and enjoying it, it started to dwindle, and it started to be real tough to be a band who's been playing in the scene for a long time, because you're virtually expected to headline that show or to like close the show out. And it's really difficult when you've been doing it for so long to have to wait that long for no one. You know what I'm saying? Like it takes a toll on a musician when you feel like you're doing all of this for nothing, you know?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, it's common knowledge that the best spot is like
right
third.
In the middle. Yeah.
You want to play about third, because after that, everybody's going home.
Yeah. Yeah.
The last band plays for nobody.
Yeah. And that never used to go down like that back in the day. It was like you could hold a crowd, and it really meant something. You know what I mean? Now Taylor with like Agony Reigns, you know, I mean, you guys hit the ground running when you guys started coming out with that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, it seemed like you guys moved right up the ladder real fast, and that is such a dangerous thing, you know, in the climate of, you know, pre-COVID, because you never knew, you know what I mean? Like, you wanted to get that second, third slot before everybody started going home, but you know, when you've been playing in the scene for a little while, other people expect you to headline it, or, you know what I mean? Like, you got to get a good group of folks that are always going to support. Like Drew has a lot of good folks that come in for your guys' shows that stick around the whole time. You know what I'm saying? And that's the shit you need to do. Go ahead.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry.
No, that's all right. Sometimes I need that too. I'll just keep jabbering on. But I just think that you know, it's super important to get out to these shows. Like you said, we lost a bunch of clubs through the riots and things like that, and a couple of them I know it was kind of a blessing from what I understand. You know, I mean, politically, you know what I'm saying? Like, people just don't know when to, you know, keep their fucking big mouth shut. And you know, I mean,
you know, like they say, sometimes you gotta burn it down to build it back up. So
right.
we're in the build back up period now.
Yeah. The whiskey that took a shot. The Hex went down. And then in those going down, you get the North Star or North, the one over on Payne Avenue or Arcade or whatever it is over there in St. Paul.
Shout out Jeff Moen.
Yep, Jeff Moen. Yep, doing that. And actually, we were talking about this on a previous podcast about my guest being happy that someone is actually putting time into a club and actually investing in the sound system and getting it, speakers hung and everything like that. That's fucking huge. I've wanted to do that with Club Underground for a really long time because that's a place that supports the stuff that we do, but it's like I would love to see a better sound system and a little more lights in that room, and I think it would be such a great place to play. I know it gets rough at times, I know they've changed it up a little bit now, and it's been sounding better. But man, just a little bit more into that place, and it would be a rock solid joint,
Man, I got to a point after playing music in this town for like 10 years where I was starting to get a little snobby about which venues I wanted to play, and started to get a little picky about it. But after this last year, anywhere that is willing to book heavy music, loud music, that's willing to put up with that. I don't care if your sound system sucks. I don't care if it smells like piss. I don't care, like, whatever. Like, it's a blessing to have anywhere left at this point.
Right.
Even talking to the guys at Mortimer's, and they were like, we hung on by a thread through this last year. And if we can't stand to lose too many more venues.
No.
It's it's Lee's, the Triple Rock, the Hexagon, all these places that used to be the smaller rooms that would book heavy music.
Yep.
Have all gone by the wayside, and even the bigger ones, Station 4, it's few and far between now.
Yep.
So hopefully more start cropping up, but in the meanwhile, it's super important that we support all these shows at places like Part Wolf, the North Star Bar, Mortimer's, anywhere that's willing to host these types of events. Go out to them, patronize them, tip your bartender, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, get out and keep this thing going. Because honestly, there's a generation of kids, I think there's a gap, but there's some kids now that are just getting into it, that are 18 to 25, that have been watching what all these older bands have been doing, and they're ready to go.
Right. We
just need to foster the scene and give them a place to exist, and then we're going to be Minneapolis will be right back kicking like it was,
right.
previously.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I noticed at the Rostamo show when not too long ago that they're doing one tomorrow again to Deterioration, and they got a bunch of bands coming from out of town. But we had a conversation last week about this, seeing new faces, people that I've never even seen at some of these shows before. Absolutely. Popping up. And I went to a Common Choir show over in St. Paul at the Shoebox, and it's been years since I've been to a house show, but it was like all these fucking young cats like throwing the fuck down. I mean, really, really getting into it and playing on stage, really throwing down as well. And it was like crowd and bands, like these new cats popping up, and talented people, man. I was blown away. I couldn't believe it. And you're right, man. It's super important for us to get out to the shows and support all the bands that are going on. And I know, with the podcast and with the podcast stuff that I do on Facebook, I mean, that's what I do weekly, is try to put shows out there. And if I see a band show, if a band that I don't get to see their stuff, if you want me to share your flyers, send them to me. If you've got shows coming up, I know people will tag me in their flyers, and I put them right in the mix. I try to keep them. I've got shows all the way out till next March. With Meshuggah coming next March. So it's like I try to keep them. Yeah, that's going to be a good one. But
Converge
trying to.
is so good live.
What's that?
Converge is opening, I think, right? Or they're
I believe so.
direct support.
I believe so. Yeah.
Oh man,
That's
go
good.
to that.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one. That's going to be a good one. Now, speaking of, do you guys have some shows coming up? You guys have some shows coming up?
We do. I'm so professional. I wrote them all down before we started.
What? A drummer that's in control, man. That's fantastic.
Dude, there's been so many times where I've been on like podcasts or interviews where they're like, "What do you got going on?" I'm like, "I don't know. Go look at our Facebook." Saturday, October 16th at the Amsterdam Bar, we're playing Reaping Asmodea's album release.
Nice.
With In Search of Solace, Grave Slave, and Agony Reigns.
That's a fantastic lineup right there, man. That's a stock bill.
I mean, Reaping Asmodea has been doing this for as long as anyone at this point.
Yeah.
Like those guys have been around for a while. They know how to curate a show, a lineup. So that's going to be a good one. And the Amsterdam Bar is another place in town where, I mean, it's hard to book there. That's a popular spot, and they book some big acts there.
Yep.
So going to that show as a metal fan and showing that bar that we can pack that place as a heavy metal scene is important. Like, go and show that bar that they should keep booking metal shows there, because it's a great place to play. It's great sound. It's a great place to see a show. So, yes, support that show. Then Saturday, November 13th at, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right. You could maybe help me, Greg. Los Campeones Gym.
Yep.
Am I saying that right?
Yep.
Is my accent like
pretty damn close? Yep.
That's just like it's just like a gymnasium over on Franklin in Minneapolis. So it's going to be kind of DIY, but that's the Agony Reigns album release show. And that's with Maul, which is a fucking sick band from Fargo.
I've heard.
If you guys don't know Maul, check them out. It's brutal. And Sentenced to Die is also playing that show. Another good band. And then we're going to go up to Duluth in December on the 11th. And that's at the Blush Bar.
Blush, yeah.
Yep.
Blush, yeah.
Yep.
With
Trita just did a show up there at the Blush.
Okay, yeah. I've seen they've been doing some more metal shows, which is sick. Like, Duluth is one of those places where it's just far enough outside the cities where it's like it's a whole new batch of people, and they don't necessarily get to see what's going on down here as much. So, like, going up there and bringing Twin Cities music to them it's very important. All the local bands should be getting up to Duluth. It's like a 2-hour drive, 2.5-hour drive.
Yep.
Go up there, play, show the surrounding area that we have legitimate sick music in the cities, because we do. And that's with Torment, who we played with at the Caboose a couple weeks ago, or about a month ago now, I guess. And that's a really sick band. I'm super into Torment, so that'll be a good one.
They're from Duluth, I think, too.
Torment's from Duluth.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, and I've been trying to push this on people for a long time now. Like, you can't focus on just being here in the Twin Cities. If you're a Twin Cities band, you've got to get out. And I give so much credit to bands that, Witch Den and Invidiosis and, Deterioration and so many other bands that are getting out of the state and trying to get on like a circuit, you know what I mean? Like allowing the Midwest to feel some of this shit that we got going on here in Minnesota, and going up to Duluth is one of those things that you need to do, you know what I mean? Like, play a couple times up there, play over in Superior. I mean, Wasco's has thrown on, a couple pretty rad shows. I mean, when the restrictions dropped off, they did the Safety Joe Fest, which was a ton of different stuff at Wasco's. And then the Northern Wisconsin Metal Fest was just, 2 weekends ago or something? So, I mean, and those were fantastic, spots to play. You know what I mean? Like, good bills. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of great bands, and from what I'm gathering, Fargo's starting to pick up a lot of things. I know Biggs in Sioux Falls. So there's a lot of bands.
Like I said, I was up in Fargo last weekend. The aquarium, it was packed. Like, it was packed. So any bands from the cities right now that want to go to Fargo, there is a scene there. There's people hungry for it, like starving for it. And there's a handful of bands from up there right now that are really good, Maul being one. The other bands are escaping me right now. Pursuit,
the mighty
Gorgatron
too. Mighty Gorgatron.
Obviously Gorgatron, yes. And I think, honestly, those guys are probably responsible for really fostering that scene because they've been doing it for a while, and they are a really high caliber band.
Oh yeah.
A band that I would never want to play after. If anything, you're lucky to play like an hour or two before that band.
Yeah.
They blow you out of the water. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So yeah, Fargo, the aquarium, like, go play there. Go play in Duluth. Like, spread the love around.
Yes.
And try and bolster the Twin Cities scene by growing roots out there.
Hell yeah. So right now you guys have naked bearded dudes in the shower listening to the podcast. Let me see here. Adam D has posed this question several times on the podcast because he likes to get input on this particular thing. And he says, Mr. Taylor, Mr. Tom, have you guys ever dealt with gatekeepers? If you did, how did you handle the situation, and were you able to diffuse the situation?
Gatekeepers?
Yeah. People that hold you back from what you're trying to do, or kind of block the way, maybe saying that you're not ready or not capable of enough to be in a certain situation. There are people in the music scene here that may or may not give people opportunities because of their own thought, whether or not you can stand up for the fucking the call. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, my band should play here. Well, we don't think you're good enough to be here. You know what I mean?
Well, being in Agony Reigns, all we had was the garage, and the garage really, it gave us confidence and made us, and actually grew us a fan base. It took a long time. It wasn't huge, but it did something. But what's cool about that place was they allowed anyone to go.
Yeah.
And we kept playing there and that was like basically the only place we really did anything. And then one day we asked to try to get on the Jungle Rot show, and we just had to kind of tell them, like, hey, like, we can do this. We will get a crowd there, and and if we don't, then I guess so be it. But there's a crowd guaranteed, and you just have to believe in us.
Yeah.
And and that's what we did. And thankfully, we had some great supporting fans, and something to build up to. And all these people were the people from the garage, and that made us, I guess, that's like the band that you see today. That's like the beginning of seeing us play, at a bigger venue or whatever. And but I'd say the garage is what helped us. That's it.
Yeah.
They're so accepting to any band, and they let someone have a chance.
Right.
And you can tell people to go there, and if they really like you, they will go to a place where you can't drink alcohol.
Right.
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 It's cool.
I know. I know when I was coming up, it was something that happened a lot. Would you if you played like the entry, 7th Street entry, they would allow you to do like an early show that was like an all ages show, and then a late show that was a drunk show. And there'd been several of those that we played, and it was so difficult to pull. And we were kind of like right on the verge of being out of high school to, you know, and being into the bar scene and having more drinkers as fans. And that was a tough thing to try to, you know, go the transition between the two things, you know. I know, and you know, here's the thing is like, I encourage everybody to get on stage. I encourage people to get out there and play instruments, and I think that not only when you start doing that type of puzzlery, you know what I mean, like building a song, creating riffs, and getting in a room with people that are doing the same thing. You know, you start to build this language between each other, and that language, I think, not only builds your character as a person, you know what I mean, but it builds your mind, and you know, this is a language that you guys learn without really talking, you know what I'm saying? Like, music is something that is like the great translation, you know what I mean? Like the vibes that you feel off of people, you know what I mean? I know that Tom was talking about, you know, the guy who signed you, Dan, his vibe, you know what I mean? Like, meeting Dan and knowing his vibe and who he is as a person, you know, someone that's very willing to help, you know, bands that he believes in, you know, move to that next level and move to that, you know what I mean, to that next thing. And I think that it's important when you're dealing with gatekeepers and people that are trying to keep you down while you're trying to hustle and do your thing is so important to surround yourself with good folks that are gonna build you up and like move you along. And you know, I mean, I know that you know, Adam's got his own studio right now. He's building and working on things and working on recording and getting that stuff all tied down. And I know that he has a lot of great ideas musically, and trying to find people to play on an album or get things like that. It's a little daunting because you know what I mean? You may not be dialed into this music scene, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know with Agony Reigns, you know, you guys have been out for a few years now. You guys have been doing these things and making contacts and making connections through, I mean, you know, Matt Parkins and, you know what I mean? Just the gamut, it runs the gamut, Bobby, and you know what I mean? Like, people that are booking shows, you're rubbing elbows with people that are willing to help you. And I think that it's really important to stay on that path and get those right people around you that are going to want you to succeed as well and want to succeed with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a huge thing.
Yeah. And, you know, another thing was too, like with the gatekeeper, because you're saying, you know, surround yourself with, you know, people who are going to keep you up, right? You know, keep giving you inspiration, you know, say, hey, you know, you got this, whatever. You know, this is just, you know, my input of it. I don't know what Tom's is really like. But with mine was, well, there wasn't too many, like, if any, you know, metal bands, you know, I mean, at our age at that time, I was, you know, 17, 18, and you didn't really ever see, you know, kids that young doing what we were doing. And so there wasn't really a scene, you know, for that, you know, for, you know, support with our other colleagues. You had to get to that point where you had like a bigger venue to believe in us, as if we felt to get into that scene to where people would believe in us,
right?
You know, to get to those, you know, other colleagues to have a great support system,
right?
But,
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great musicians in this town, you know what I mean, and I know that myself personally, like, I've been asked to join other bands, and you know what I mean? You get stuck in playing, I wouldn't say stuck, but you get comfortable playing with the people that you may have started, you know, a project with, you know what I'm saying? Like, you may have one guy missing practice a lot, or one guy, you know, not contributing a whole bunch, and you try to like tell them, hey man, we need you to be here, we need you to get things going, but you get complacent in this scenario, in this situation, you know, and it's hard to think, well, man, I could just start looking for new members of the band, you know, for the band, you know, and then you gotta confide in other members in the band who may be friends with the person that you're try to take out of the band. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's such a different process, man. When you're creating with someone, you know, you're sharing this language that you guys all speak as a collective, and you know, running into those situations where it's time to move on to the next. He's showing us beers again. The bottom of beers. That's a nice bottom you got there on that beer there, Tom.
Sorry, I took a pee break and now I'm getting beers.
There you go. Double it up. Nothing wrong with that.
I might need to grab another one here soon too.
Yeah. You know, it's such a difficult thing to move on with different members in a band, and ones that you've grown kind of complacent with, just jamming with. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm not. Your scenario is a bit different because, you know, you're in a successful band already, and then you join another successful band, you know? So it's like, it's thrive on either way. You know what I'm saying?
The first band, you know, Agony, we got successful because someone gave us a chance.
Yep.
And we had to really prove that, you know, for being so young, at that time, especially, I mean, we were just babies, right?
Yep.
People don't take you seriously. And
you're still a baby.
I am still a baby, but I was a freaking infant then. But what we really had to do was, you know, people don't really take you seriously when you're that young. So our whole goal was, you know, we have to blow them away. You know, we want the crowd there, you know, to put a good impression on. And then also we want to blow people away, because that's the only way when we're this young for people to really think that, oh shit, you know, these guys aren't fucking around. And, you know, it's to say that, you know, we really care about what we play, and, you know, we really want to be a part of this scene and, you know, network with these people. And that was really the inspiration was that one show that had the opportunity for us to do that.
Oh yeah.
And that was it. I don't know. The rest is history.
You know, a lot of people too, man. You know, with the person that was putting those things on, you know, with Leo Presents and stuff. A lot of people. I mean, I've you know, suggested to Bobby when he was doing those big shows at Skyway. You know, he was grabbing so many local bands that I personally felt, and I told him when we did a podcast together that it was like he was doing a great thing by giving people a chance, but we played with a band, and I don't even remember their name, and I'm not trying to shit on anybody, but I always feel like bands, when they open for big bands like that, they need to have the merit behind it, and that's what it was back in the day. You know, you were playing around, you know, paying your dues and playing, you know, like the Garage, and playing, you know, these small venues in these shitty clubs to just kind of get on the map, you know, and then you had the merit if you had a following, you know, people who wanted to come and see you, who were paying, who were drinking, that were, you know what I mean, a following. So it was like there was merit when someone said, hey man, I've heard or I've seen your band play and you guys have a great following. I would really like you to open for this band, you know, and a lot of times you're just like totally blown away, like, holy fuck, I'm getting asked to open for this touring band at the time, you know?
You shit your pants when that happens.
I mean, and with you know, sometimes I felt with some of those bills that Bobby had that were so big, and again, like I said, I had conversations with them about it on the podcast. It was like, imagine us three being in different bands, right? And all of a sudden, you know, Tom's friends with your drummer because of some drum clinic or something. You know what I'm saying? So they become friends. Now the group.
I'm friends with all drummers, Greg.
Woo! That's what I'm talking about.
If you're a drummer, we're friends.
That's right. Because you got that tribal rhythm beat in you, man. That's what it is. There's a bond right there when you're slamming the skins like that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's all good. But you know, I think I like if all three of us had a band and you know, we kind of ran in the same circle of friends, right? There's going to be a handful outside of that group of friends that you're going to be able to appeal to sell tickets to. You know what I'm saying? And now we could go to our grandma's house on a fucking holiday, right? And we could sell 20 tickets to all of our family members, but how many of them family members are going to come to the show and support what you're doing, right? So when I did a show for Bobby, and we did really well. We sold a lot of tickets and you know, we got offered more shows and whatnot. But the band before us that was put on, when they were done playing, they just went off to party, you know? And they had a merch bin sitting next to me. And I was like, how are you not going to make money off of this? You guys just played a great show. How, you know what I mean? And that's the merit I felt like they didn't have. You know what I'm saying? Like Agony Reigns, because you guys work so hard to get a following, and then work so hard to get that chance, and you wanted to make that, you know what I mean? Many times with Coffin Rites back in the day, you know what I'm saying? Those guys working themselves into the music scene. Obviously, Will was plugged in, and every one of those members in that band has been plugged into different parts of the music scene, you know what I'm saying? So you build this merit through all of this, you know, paying dues and chewing shit and getting it done, you know? I feel like if you don't put your good foot forward, or if you don't have merch together, if you don't have your ducks in a row, if you're not trying to make this somewhat of a sustainable thing, like who the fuck wants to pay for their rehearsal space every month? You know what I'm saying? If you have a band that's playing or going out and, you know, making a little bit of money, selling some merch, you're able to fund all of this fun shit that you're doing. You know what I mean? It's not so much of a well, I mean, playing metal in general, you're doing it for the love of playing, not to make $1 million by any means, you know.
A lot of people don't
think. Go ahead, Taylor.
Oh no, dude, you go ahead. I was just gonna
say, to speak on Adam D's point or question about gatekeepers, is that I think there is the gatekeepers that we find ourselves faced with are generally other bands that maybe adhere to a mindset of, yes, it is like lose money hand over fist, and don't participate in shows that people like Bobby book, because there's a money element to it. And I think there is like we talked about the scene being kind of cliquey, and there is a certain section of the scene, bands that I don't want to name, but maybe bands that we've already talked about tonight, that they are too cool for school, and they don't want to book Bobby shows, or they don't want to do certain things because they see it as not being true with a V, or whatever, however you want to phrase it.
Cult with a V?
Sure. You know what I mean, though? Like, there's a certain model of shows that people don't want to participate in.
Right.
But then they'll also bitch when they go to those shows and be like, why are these bands opening these shows? There's these other bands that have been doing it for so much longer that deserve those opening slots. And it's like, yeah, well, those bands don't want to participate in this business model.
Right.
And so that's why you're not seeing it. And I think to make our music scene locally a good music scene, you have these bands that are stellar bands, but have these like diehard ethics that they don't want to break. We end up with we end up with some national touring packages coming through with opening bands that may be subpar.
Right.
Because these other bands think that they're above participating in that.
Right.
And I think you'll find, and I think, it's something that maybe doesn't go talked about very often, maybe now more so in the land of podcasts. But I think most of your bigger bands that you will find when they were starting out, participated in that business model.
Yeah.
And I think it's wrong of bands to try and act like they're too cool for that shit, or to,
I think there's a huge misunderstanding there that I tried to, when I had, Bobby on here, and I hate to keep going back to Bobby, but it is that business model.
Let's be real. He is a talking point,
right,
amongst local bands.
Sure.
For sure.
And here's the sad thing about it is, like, I've talked to other people and I've talked to him directly, and, there was a different business model. And I think that business model was slowly being tuned in by the time it got to where it is now, and I think that people actually did pay to play for a little while. I know that there was a very large, promoter back in the day when I was coming up, in the early 90s, the late 80s, early 90s, when I started playing out live, that did have pay to play shows, and there were other promoters in town that kind of supported them by swapping bands. Like, say, a band that is familiar in Minnesota and Wisconsin, he would interject those into the festivals by taking the money that was owed to band. He would put bands from out of state would take on the responsibility of payment to play this festival, Well, anyway, we'll move on to the Bobby thing. When I spoke to Bobby, I talked to him at length about, this pay to play shit and what it turns out to be, and what I asked him that night, like, why did you never ask my bands to play the shows, like, and his honest answer was like, you're from an old school mindset and an old school model. Like, I didn't think you wanted to do it. And I was like, dude, give me a shot to play one of these shows, and I'll show you what the old cats can do. And, I played with two great local bands, and all three of us did a fantastic job of selling the tickets. And it was like, you're not on the hook if you don't sell these 50 tickets. You're going to sell as many as you fucking can, because it's kind of like a test. Like, do you have the following to sell these 50 tickets? Do you have the following that these people are going to show up? Or are you just going to grandma's house on Thanksgiving and selling these 25 tickets to your family members that aren't going to show up, where bands like, Outside the Murder, when we did the show with Soulfly, I sold those 50 tickets, and my bass player sold those the following 50 tickets. So we were already at 100 deep before the show even started. You know what I mean? And he gave us another. So it was 150 tickets that we had on our own. The day of the show, I sold close to another 50 tickets. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, I was proving myself as an old guy, one, that I could fucking do it on my own, that I had enough friends and had enough fans that wanted to come to the show. I purchased 50 t-shirts just with the front print, a big, large front print, but I sold those 50 t-shirts before the fucking show even came. So I had to rush order another 50. Now, this is the merit that I was talking about, is like, people do play the too cool for school type of shit and miss out on these responsibilities. And we get a representation that is, like you said, sometimes subpar from bands that, honestly, they're getting a shot, which is great. But like I said, with that conversation with Bobby, I felt like it was like you're grabbing the bottom of the barrel because you're grabbing all of them at the same time. You know what I'm saying? There isn't like a handful.
But also, to your point, there's a handful of really great bands that exist for a long time, and you don't hear about them until they're playing Rostamos.
Yep.
And maybe it's their own fault because they're not taking advantage of some of these opportunities. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's, and I had that conversation with the guys from Deterioration after the show. I was like, you guys,
I'm not trying to name names.
No. I understand. I did because I totally, I'm guilty of that because, I had seen those guys playing house shows and I had heard the name a bunch of times, but I'd never seen them live. And I didn't get invited to those house shows, and I think a lot of that was because of the NYDM thing. A lot of people kind of frown on that whole thing too. You know what I mean? And there's people in the scene that are like, you guys are, separating the scene more so than helping it, which to me is completely mind-boggling, because all the guys that are part of the club here in the Midwest are all about supporting the bands and supporting the shows and showing up, and guys will help you unload your shit up and down them stairs or whatever, and it kind of blows my mind that there are still bands out there that aren't intermingling, and I said that to the guys in Deterioration, and nothing ill towards them at all. I just wish I could integrate those guys in with some of these great bands that we have around to play more.
Like, those guys should be opening for When Terrorizer comes to town, Deterioration should be open.
Oh, for sure. Napalm
but
Death.
They don't want to participate in that thing.
Yeah.
And so people that go to see Terrorizer don't get to see Deterioration.
Right. Right.
And honestly, I think that brings our entire music scene down a notch, because these grade A bands are opening for these national historic legacy acts because they don't want to have to sell 50 tickets.
I'll tell you what right now.
Friends who are going to the show who are gonna buy that, they're still going to the show,
dude. Tom,
going to see Terrorize.
I'm telling you right now, this right here, dude, is if there's a band that comes that Bobby books that I think Deterioration would be fantastic for, I'm just going to call Deterioration. I'm going to talk to Jim, and I'm going to go, hey, Jim, I got you on the show. Don't worry about selling the tickets. I'm going to sell them myself.
People are going to buy them.
Yeah.
So it's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. I get the punk rock ethos, and I like, that's where I grew up.
Yeah.
And that's what I get it. But also, there's a good fucking deal at Walmart.
Yeah.
I'm broke. I'm going to go get the good deal at Walmart. Like, fuck these ethos. Like, it's every man for themselves when it comes down to it,
Yep.
And as a band, I think there's a certain extent where you have to fucking adhere to that. Like, you have to do some shit that maybe, it's not what is ideal, but it's not like the end of the fucking world.
Yeah. Like,
it's still gonna work. Like, we can all still exist in this place, and theoretically, you get to play with fucking Terrorizer, like I said, or whatever.
Yep.
Like,
you know what I loved is when my buddy James brought DRI into town. I was thinking of thrash bands, and it would have been Outside the Murder, which really wasn't a thrash band, but you guys, I asked Agony Reigns right away if they wanted to do the show, and then Henry Jordan, who is now on the chat room here, asking me to sit on his face. Dude, I feel really bad for you if I did. That's all I'm saying. I'm a pretty big fella. I got a disco booty. So Henry's band, like his drummer, is a young cat at the time, and kind of cocked off like, we should be opening that show. And I was like, dude, you gotta pay some dues, And then when we pulled off the show, I called Henry, because Henry's such a talented guitar player and such a driven cat, much like the guys from Agony Reigns. And that was what I told Henry, I'm like, okay, hey dude, I'm going to get you on the show. And it was like, do we got to sell tickets? And I was like, no, man, this is an old school one. Like, I asked James, I was like, hey man, can you pay these guys? And he's like, fuck yeah, they're opening the show. We know that there's going to be people there. We're paying them. And I'm like, okay, well, we negotiated payment for these guys. You know what I mean? And it was nice to be able to do that. And James and I had a nice rapport working at Lee's together. So it was like, and we've been friends years before that, but to me, it's so nice to have that old school way too, where you're doing a DIY thing, or you're putting shows together, and I really miss it, man. Playing and putting shows on at Lee's, and having that bond. I felt like, that's what I really wanted to do. And I'm really sad that I didn't get a chance to bring the Agony Reigns guys over there to do them shows. But man, we definitely need to support all of the places that are still out and kicking right now. And like you said, Tom, booking these heavy bands. And, honestly, Tom, I'd like to see a Deterioration on a Coffin Rites show. Those are two bands together would be dope.
There's nothing that we would like I said, we want that. We want to work with these bands that are more of a DIY vibe, and that's part of why we signed to a more punk rock label. Like we want to be able to do both. We want to be able to do whatever. Like we want to play your house show. We want to play, the Caboose. We want to play, wherever. It doesn't matter to us. Like we want to get in the trenches. We want to be on the main stage.
Hell yeah.
And I don't see any reason why any band should also want that. And stop, like you said, this clicky crap is that's some 2019 shit. We're in 2021 now.
Yep.
We're hopefully 3/4 of the way through a global pandemic, and there's a handful of bands that are just done. There's a handful of venues that are just done. There's a handful of promoters that are done. It's time to rebuild, and there's no reason for any sort of division. There's no reason for anybody to be too cool for anything.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you, and it seems like there's, bands like Pursuit are getting, solid lineups now, and they're starting to do a lot of things. Like you said, the Agony Reigns, I felt like was one of those bands that kind of started to usher in these younger cats. Now, you've actually played with those Bereavement kids, right?
I filled in for them 4 shows. Last one was last Friday.
Now, those dudes are pretty young, correct?
They are literally half my age.
Shit.
I think the youngest dude is just about to turn 18.
Damn.
And the oldest one is 18 or 19 at this point. 18, I think, still. So yeah, and if you haven't listened to them yet, which you have obviously, but anybody else listening, go check out Bereavement. It's grade A death metal from kids.
Yeah.
They are so young, and they are wise beyond their years, and they're only going to get better. And, Coffin Rites, Graveslave album release show ended up being Coffin Rites, The Bereavement, that band Torment from Duluth, and what was the other band? Exquisite, which was a touring band.
Right.
But it was it was a 16+ show at the Caboose, and I would say 75% of the people there were underaged with the X's on their hands.
Damn.
And they were losing their minds. Several times they had to have security for the venue stop them from physically ripping the barricade off from in front of the stage and just throwing it around. I've seriously never seen anything like it.
That's fantastic, dude.
I started organically, and they just started just fucking shit up. These kids that are under 21 are fucking ready to go.
Yeah.
And they're kids that are fans. You and I, musicians from the cities, know most of the shows we play, we're playing to other musicians.
Right.
And I think for our scene to be really successful, we have to really embrace people that are just fans of music.
Yeah.
And I think that is starting to happen again, especially in metal music. I think it's starting to come back. People want to see real live musicians playing real instruments, doing some shit that like is unique, and it's not what you hear or see on mainstream. Even our local hard rock radio station, you tune into that, you don't even hear guitars anymore.
Right.
If you want to hear and see people play guitars, you have to go to a local show and see some people that are your neighbors, your fellow Twin Cities citizens.
Yeah.
And they're really good. And it's only going to get better. So
yeah. Defiled Sacrament is one of those bands too that I got to see up in Wasco's at the beginning of the restrictions being brought down, and I looked at those cats, and I had them on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and I was just like, this is where I was when I was a kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were in it. Speaking with the one guitar player, Josh, and the drummer, Steve, they're such young cats, man. And like the one guitar player had been playing just a bit longer than the other guitar player that joined the band. And he's like, yeah, I was just showing him, how to play these certain riffs. And he started picking the things up and creating it was like, at the very bottom of where the essence of the roots of where the fuck you start. You know what I'm saying? It was so visceral and real to me. I was like, damn, dude, that's what I'm talking about, man. When I was a kid, I was dying for that shit, dying for it. And hopefully we can open them shows up to be 16 plus or 18 plus, because that's really what's going to happen is as these guys are slowly moving to drinking age, if you can entice them more to start coming to these shows. I mean, it'd be nice to have, a place like Club Underground that would take in some of them shows, because damn, dude, there's so much possibilities there, especially if they're showing up at the Caboose, ripped and ready to tear some shit up. You know what I mean? Like, that's fun.
I was just about to say that.
Honestly, it was
having more shows that are 16 plus or all ages or something. I mean, our experience at the Caboose that one night was, that was one of the best shows, period, for me.
Yeah.
And it was just awesome. I remember being 15.
Yeah.
Playing in a band, not having too much opportunities to play at big shows or whatever. But actually even going to shows in general.
That's what I was going to say too, man.
And
yeah.
I was so hungry to see any band. And the thing is I was, so close to the cities, I could go see anything I wanted, but you know what? I couldn't go see Cannibal Corpse. I couldn't go see, Nile. I couldn't go see, whoever, because of my age. And all I had was the local bands, and there was maybe 2 shows I could go to that were local, that were all ages. But you know what? They were the most fun thing ever. But I wish there was more of that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a really good idea. But you know what it is that tapping into that promotional market too. You know what I'm saying? Like, where do you go as a band that plays, a lot of drunk shows? How do you get, you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to see a guy.
Los Campeones Gym, Saturday, November 13th.
Yep.
Agony Reigns album release show.
There you go. Yeah.
All ages, as far as I know.
There you
It's
go.
a gym. They don't serve alcohol there. Just saying.
You're right.
Shameless,
By the way,
shameless promotion.
it's a really good venue. I saw Shabalba there and Wanderer. Sentenced to Die, I actually saw there was their first show ever. Sentenced to Die kicked ass. It was awesome. And it was actually my first time seeing Wanderer live too. And dude, it just blew the house off. It was an amazing show. And I actually really wish that gym would actually become just a real venue. just, I mean, everyone's together, everyone's so up close, and everyone's just engaged.
Now does Dave Sikorsky have a hand in any of that? I know he used to work at that gym.
Really, I have no clue.
And he used to play in Descent of Man, so he's into heavy shit.
I feel like this might be a new it might be a new room, just because when I saw Shabalba there, there was like literally no equipment in there. It was just an empty room.
Wow. Okay.
So it might be different now, but then, I mean, you could go like anywhere. Like they actually had to tape off like, caution signs. So like you like stayed away from like the part that they were going to ship stuff into or whatever.
Okay.
I don't know.
Gotcha.
But it was just that empty. They didn't want people roaming around everywhere.
Right.
But I'm not sure what's going to be like now. But I mean, from then it was just awesome. People were engaged. You were like forced to be, in the pit almost. It's awesome.
We've got a Minneapolis old school death metal cat, Sean Jensen, from Neurotoxin from Rochester, to horror and to so many other bands that he played in. Grand Demise of Civilization, played bass and vocals in that band. Sean Jensen.
That band's so sick.
Oh, I know, dude. And this is a guy that for many years, man, this is a dude, Taylor, that when I was a kid, when I was 17, he was roughly just a couple years older than me, and Don Decker would bring Neurotoxin up from Rochester, and he was one of those guys that was like tattooed up before any of us were, tons of piercings, and he was like rail thin and like mohawk and fucking just like the dirtiest, grungiest fucking, sick vocals and shit. And I remember seeing him as a kid going, I want to do that. And it's funny because I've had him on the show a couple times, and we talked where he's like, dude, we were looking at your guys' band saying the same thing. Like we were all coming up in that same, back then it was, there was like this healthy competition between bands, you know what I'm saying? And I've seen the music scene just go in these ebbs and flows and do all of the stuff, but man, like you said before, Tom, I hope that the 2019 version of what we were going through and all this clicky shit where certain bands were playing with each other, at different venues and not mixing it up more. Man, I hope that shit's done. I hope we can get back to those all age shows or 16 plus, or, open the possibilities up a bit more too, and
open this pit up.
Yes, sir. And bands like Begravement and Pursuit and, Defiled Sacrament and Torment and, a handful of other ones, These are the cats that we need to nurture and facilitate these shows, because other older cats have these connections and have paid their dues in this town, so I think we need to fucking embrace those cats. And I thought it was so cool, Tom, that you filled in for those guys, before, as a drummer, you know what I mean, to keep them guys going. That's badass.
I mean, I'd watched them posting for a solid month or two that they were desperately looking for a drummer. And it was just like, God damn it. Like, I can't sit by and just like watch these guys not be able to play. They're there. They're ready to go.
Yeah.
Owen and Ezra and fucking Matt they have their parts locked in. The songwriting is really good. All they need is a good drummer. And I remember messaging them and being like, don't settle. Don't just get some crappy drummer, please.
Right.
Like, I like you guys so much. It's so good. Like, it's going to be so painful if you guys just get some lousy drummer.
Well, Tom, I mean, you probably help them raise the bar a little bit too,
So my favorite
I don't want to take any credit I played note for note, and not even like as close as I could to what they already had recorded.
Yeah.
Which is Owen, their guitar player, recorded all their drum parts. And that motherfucker is a solid drummer. He could easily just be their drummer, but he's a better guitar player, which is ridiculous.
I hate those assholes, man. It's like,
dude,
what are you doing?
Tell me about it. So, yeah, I was just comping what they already had,
yeah.
You know? And even that, for me, as somebody who's been doing this for like 20 years, was like, it was work. You know, it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
So, good luck. They've got a guy lined up, from what I understand. They're training him. They're putting him through the paces. Best of luck to you. If you're not really good, I'm gonna come shake you down. They deserve a really good drummer.
You just see Tom holding him holding by his ankle over a fucking ledge. You better get better, motherfucker. You know, just holler at him.
Practice.
Right. That's fucking hilarious, man. Oh yeah,
they're my favorite band here in Minnesota. I'm not shitting you. They blow the fucking roof out. I remember hearing their record for the first time, and I was actually blown away. That was not what I was expecting at all. And then, you know, seeing them live, I mean, I became even a bigger fan. And, you know, it was awesome seeing Tom with them too, of course. But I mean, those guys, I thought I was good when I was 16.
right.
Holy shit. No. They make me look like I suck to them, you know. They're great musicians. They're in line with, you know, all like the really good bands. And they're such good dudes too. So I'm really looking forward to what, you know, to what they really have coming, you know, in the future. It's amazing.
Hell yeah.
If you haven't seen them live, dude, it's gonna blow you away.
I'm excited. I've heard good things, and then, you know, when I heard that Tom was filling in for him for a few shows, I was like, well, I haven't heard them yet, but I know that if Tom is taking the time to play with those guys, you know damn well that they're no fucking slouches, you know, and being young cats. And I mean, good on you, Tom, too, for you know what I mean, facilitating that shit and like, you know, like nurturing that shit, man, because that's really huge, man.
Like I said, we're like, my friends that are my age have seen me come play drums for 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing I can do to get my friends to come out and see me anymore.
Right.
So kids that are 18 to 25 in that range, that is who we need to speak to right now. And at bands like Agony Reigns, bands like Begravement, you know, there are some fucking really good bands right now.
Yeah.
That are young, that can draw. Like that show that we played at the Caboose where there were all those fucking underage kids going crazy. A lot of them were there for Begravement.
Right.
And we need to embrace that. We need to, you know, foster an environment where they are happy to come and keep coming. And if not, we are fucking dinosaurs and we are gonna cease to exist in a relevant state.
No, I feel you there, dude.
Yeah, playing drums for them was a no-brainer for me. It was like, it's great music. It's the fucking future of the Twin Cities music scene. And it was fun as fuck. So, yeah, obviously.
A win-win-win-win-win. It's all a win.
Yes.
So why don't you tell us your guys' shows one more time? And then I know we have one more song before we wrap this bad boy up.
Saturday, October 16th at the Amsterdam Bar. It's Reaping Asmodeus album release. Saturday, November 13th at Los Campeones Gym in Minneapolis. That's Agony Reigns album release. And Saturday, December 11th in Duluth at the Bluishi Bar with Torment.
I love how you gave a different pronunciation of it. Blush, bluche.
I don't know. It's a bar in Duluth. If you go to Duluth on Saturday, December 11th, and you hear metal music, just head in that direction.
Yeah. Yep. For sure. There you go. You guys want to touch on anything else? You guys good? What is? Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that again, going to Begravement. Those fans that showed up for them, right? They're all younger. A lot of those people were saying that that was their first death metal show or metal show in general, and that was fucking awesome.
That's killer.
Thing was, they didn't pull any bullshit. They were legit fans, like Tom was saying. They stayed the whole time. They showed up for Exquisite, the first band, and they stayed till us. And they stayed after as long as they could before they got kicked out, to talk with everybody. And that is really, really cool. And that's something that I haven't even really seen before, being a fan when I was 15, 16, 17, whatever, trying to go to shows. Most of them has only been musicians, and these were legit fans. I even asked, do you play anything? No, I just like the music.
Right.
That's awesome.
Hell yeah. And that stuff inspires so many people, man. I mean, being in this music scene for so long, I've had other musicians who've come up to me and say that they've seen some shows that I'd been involved in, you know what I mean? And saying, oh, that was my first time seeing that. And that was the first time I had ever heard of you ever play, and, that type of shit. And that inspiration is what we need, like Tom was saying, man, to foster that and to nurture that and to keep it rolling, man, striking while the iron is still hot, man,
Exactly.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you guys for taking the time for doing the show, man. Best of luck on all of this stuff and the shows. I'm sure I will see you guys. Like I said, I'm going to be taking lots of photography, so I'm going to be trying to get out to as many shows as possible, because I know when we were locked down, it was like, fucking freaking out, no live music, you know what I'm saying? So thank you guys so much for doing the show. And coming on and being solid individuals and wanting to see our music scene thrive and do well and, raise the tide and all the ships at the same time. All of us talking about so many different great bands here in the Twin Cities and so many opportunities that we think people should be shooting at too, you know what I mean? And our suggestions on keeping things rolling and showing up for shows and supporting the shows and supporting all the bands out here, man. It's really important. And these venues, it's really important to get out to these venues and support because we don't know how long they're going to be open. And hopefully, like you said, we're 3/4 of the way through this shit. And we can continue to keep these venues and people safe and open and live music alive still.
Well, thanks for having us on here, though, too.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Anytime.
Greg.
Yeah, you bet, man. You bet. I'll finish everything up and then I'll talk to you guys in a second. All right.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. Don't forget to check out Anti-Broadcasting Custom Screen Printing, antibroadcasting@gmail.com, 612-836-9488, Lowbrow Saints Tattoo Collective, One of my favorite tattoo shops, Lowbrow Saints Tattoo Collective over in South Minneapolis, 612-353-4755, lowbrowsaints@gmail. Make sure you give them a shout. I want to say thank you to all of the subscribers on YouTube and the people joining us in the chat room every week. I appreciate you guys so much. You guys make the show that much more fun, more interactive with everybody involved as guests and other people in the chat rooms. Thank you very much, man, for all the support and all the love. I really hit TikTok fucking really hard this week. What's funny is 2 days ago, I had 66 followers. By the end of the day today, I think I was at like 420. So I'm trying to reach that 1,000 mark. So if you're listening to this or seeing this video later on after the fact, go and follow me on Twitter. I do a bunch of stupid shit on there and act foolish and talk shit. And I post a lot of my photography. If last time I did the stuff for Coffin Rites, I did post a bunch of those, made a little TikTok like show thing with their music in the background. So I'm going to be doing a bunch of that shit. I'm going to be doing, hopefully once I hit 1,000 followers, I'll be able to incorporate that live stuff in with the YouTube live stuff and, like reach more folks and have more fun and bring more people in and hopefully expose more people to cool metal stuff. And if you're in a local band and you want to be showcased on the podcast or you want to be a guest on the podcast, hit me up, ritualmadnesspodcast@gmail. We've got one more tune from the guys here in Coffin Rites. One more off of their new release, Human Erase, available on iTunes. At least this is where I found it anyways. I think they're on, you guys on Bandcamp too? You guys on Spotify as well?
Yep.
Bandcamp, Spotify, Apple Music. If you want to purchase merch, we're on FTWNU2 records.bigcartel.com. And anywhere else that you
The
do
live
things
shows.
online.
Yeah.
What else is there? Fucking Pornhub? Like, you might find us there. I don't know.
Yeah. Definitely use a Coffin Rites song when you make your homemade porn. That would be really good. I would laugh my ass off. Yeah, that's where Tom blasted in that blast beat.
He's been on the Bone Harvest. You can do it through that song.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. All right, so this tune is called Mask of Sanity. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thanks to the guys in Coffin Rites for doing the show. And you guys have a good evening. Peace out.
Ritual Madness Podcast. Ritual